talked offline a little bit that we're both got this love for wrestling. So I actually have a couple of start bench cut questions for you, wrestling edition. Now, again, I'm mainly WWE. So these are probably going to be around WWE. And I don't know how much I'm not going to disrespect saying that you don't know anything about the WWE, but my timeline is like right as the Attitude Era kicked off. And then I kind of didn't watch wrestling during like the early part of the Ruthless Aggression era. And then I want to say when Daniel Bryan got hot, I started watching it again.
Okay.
All right. So not too much of a break, but I've caught up with it quite a bit. I remember when Vince McMahon was running the show, and then I remember when Triple H started running the show. So that's my timeline of it. Okay.
All right. I got you.
So the first one is WrestleMania matches. Okay. All right. So first WrestleMania match, start bench cut. Rock versus Hogan, WrestleMania 18. Daniel Bryan versus The Authority, WrestleMania 30. Or Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 40. Start bench cut.
So this is important. When you say Bryan versus The Authority at WrestleMania 30, because Bryan had an opening match against Triple H to get himself into the triple threat against.
I'm talking about the main event. When he won the titles.
It's the triple. Ooh.
Yeah, stakes are high now, aren't they?
So,
in fact, just to even make it fun, we'll just include both those matches together. The whole thing, because it is true. Like, you can't say the triple threat without the singles match that led to it. So we'll just say both of them included as just one finale, because that's essentially what it was.
So what I will say is, as iconic of a moment as the stare-off was, and this might be a little bit slighted because of some, personal outside of the ring issues that this person's had.
Yeah.
As much as a fan of I am as The Rock, I would have to cut Rock Hogan. I think the electricity was off the charts. That you're not going to capture lightning in a bottle like that again. In terms of the actual match, meh. I'm going to bench the Daniel Bryan. It's one of the coolest stories. You just mentioned you got back into it as Bryan got hot. WrestleMania 30, Miracle on Bourbon Street. The way that they told the story from August of that year all the way through. Bryan wasn't supposed to be in that match, and the fans literally put him in that match. It was awesome. But I'm looking at what happened afterwards and Bryan's neck injury as something that really deterred probably what could have been an era defining moment. But this match, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, WrestleMania 40 was defining. I was a Roman guy. I still am a Roman guy. I mean, he could have held that title 5 more years and I would have been great. But I couldn't even deny how special that Cody Roman match was, man. Even the night before with the tag team match and how they played that story so perfectly throughout the entire time, how intricately layered. I said from the beginning that, WWE didn't have a homegrown star. They need to get somebody. But since Cody wasn't immediately given the title at WrestleMania 39, a year after he debuted and had to work all his way back, and the way they told the story, it's people have said the Avengers Endgame, the Undertaker shows up. Dude, Seth Rollins, Roman, having the opportunity to win the match or get his revenge on Seth, and that's what
takes the revenge.
That's what cracked him, bro. The amount of storytelling in that match, and it was really the signal of Triple H had his hand on WrestleMania 38 a little bit. He has his hand on WrestleMania 39, but WrestleMania 40 was the thing. Vince is gone, TKO's over it. Triple H gets full creative control, and that was his first season of, hey, this is mine, and just knocked it out of the park, man. That's going to be something we remember for quite some time.
I will say WrestleMania 40, top to bottom, night 1 and 2 was probably one of my top 3 best WrestleManias. And I remember watching the very first TLC at WrestleMania, and that was like eye-opening, like never seen that before. Don't know if we'll ever see it again. And then WrestleMania 19 was okay, but really the one match that I fell in love with at WrestleMania 19 was the Rock and Stone Cold final match where Stone Cold turns and went corporate. Like that was interesting. Those are probably like my top 2 like moments that I remember. And 40 is up there because like it was goosebumps. Like I'm, sitting on my couch in my 30s watching this thing like I'm, 10 years old all over again. It was great. So, All right. I got another one for you. Storylines of the WWE primarily. Okay. Start, bench, cut. NWO invasion of WCW, which is kind of weird. I just said WWE, but I threw in WCW. They own the asset, so it's fine.
That's fair.
So the NWO invasion of WCW, the Bloodline storyline currently, including the start to today. I want to include the whole thing because that's a huge in this one. Or the entirety of the Stone Cold McMahon feud.
So I'm gonna cut. This is tough, man. This is tough. I didn't know what you were going for. I thought you were going wrestlers. When you said start, bench, cut, I'm like, okay, I can pick my favorite or whatever. Oh my gosh. So I'm gonna cut NWO WCW. Okay. Reason I do that, yes, it was real. The way they portrayed it was awesome, but quickly got diluted. Like it didn't stand the test of time. I'm gonna bench Austin McMahon. And I give Austin McMahon that edge because it was either the NWO win the Monday Night War or Austin McMahon win the Monday Night War. Yeah. And somebody won the Monday Night War. You couldn't define Stone Cold, you couldn't define Mr. McMahon, and you couldn't define other stories without that feud. Right. And it was pretty consistent. And also, like, one of your favorite WrestleManias, like WrestleMania 17, when Austin turned corporate, like, you don't get that moment without that feud. Right. Which is huge. Like, nobody saw that coming. Honestly, like,
him to line up with Vince McMahon win against everything we had thought like that Austin would do. Yeah.
Agreed. Dude, I would even go back and watch it like, over and over. And I'm still just like looking, I'm like,
Drew Code Sports Talk is supported by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your go-to app for tickets, making it super easy to find the best deals. They even rate each ticket deal on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting your money's worth. And as a special thank you to our listeners, we've got a promo code just for you. Use Drew Code at checkout to get $20 off your first order. That's $20 off your first purchase, whether it's for the game that you've been dying to see or that concert that everybody is talking about. Head over to SeatGeek now, find your perfect seat, and use Drew Code for $20 off your first order. SeatGeek, get your tickets to the action today.
What did I just watch? Like, this feels so out of place. The start is the Bloodline. Dude, I don't know of a story other than Kane Undertaker that just lasted this long.
Yeah.
But in terms of like just never taking a break, dude, this, like, Roman didn't need to be on TV every week. Roman didn't need to wrestle every week for this story to continue. And the fact that we haven't went away from it, even after Roman's title run has ended, it gave us Roman's title run. It gave us so many great moments. Honorary Uso. Dude, just the amount of stuff. And now that we're all the way circling back to where we're actually getting like, the honorary Uso back and, the real Bloodline and how it elevated everybody in there. Like, it elevated Jey Uso. It elevated Sami Zayn. Like, elevated Solo. Yeah. And the fact that it's also created jobs for Tama Tonga. Tonga Loa was released by WWE 15 years ago as Camacho. And he had no path there. Tama Tonga was just chilling in Japan. Jacob Fatu.
Is a scare. Here's the funny thing. When the first clip I saw when Roman Reigns returned and him and Fatu kind of like went face to face, it actually gave me goosebumps. I was like, oh man, like Fatu has been an animal since he's entered in the WWE. And also too, he's had a lot of like weight loss. So he's really like just a different style of wrestler than he was before. And I was like, oh man, this would be fun to watch. And I'm really glad that you mentioned him, because I think like the fact that they use him as like the person who's so in love with Solo is kind of interesting, because I'm like, man, when's the hat going to drop when this guy's like, wait a minute, I don't need Solo, because he's that good of a wrestler, I think, or at least that good of a talent.
And if you notice, I mean, Roman, who was his enforcer? Solo.
Right.
When Roman dropped the ball, Solo stepped up.
Right.
I think they can do the same thing with Jacob Fatu being Solo's enforcer. And once, Solo falls, Jacob's there to step up.
Yeah. This is one of the coolest things, I think. And I think, too, the theme of these two were basically the bloodline. Like, I may not be the biggest Roman Reigns fan. I think he's a good wrestler. Is he the most entertaining that I've ever watched? No. But, like, the fact that, as you mentioned, he doesn't have to be on weekly programming and he feels like he's at the show because of this storyline. That's how powerful it is. And the fact that you don't even have to have watched it from start to finish. The fact that it kind of leaves you breadcrumbs along social media and it's just woven into the WWE in a way to where, like, before you know it, we're like almost 5 years into this storyline. Like, I can't remember a storyline outside of Austin and McMahon where that storyline just took so long. And it wasn't even that it took so long. It was just kind of touched on and then they moved on to something else. And they kind of touched on it, moved on to something else. The bloodline has been consistent. It has literally been like a prequel, the sequel. Now we got, a branch off series here. It is like all the sum of like a movie or a TV show that I've never seen WWE do. And it's really cool that they are taking their time with it. Like really ironing out this story. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's going to end at Survivor Series. It just feels like we have another stake in the ground for what's to come next. Like, that's what it feels like.
And here's the edge, right? It's the microwave thing. 20 years ago, we could have had, a longer story and it would have just been accepted. And social media now, if people get bored, like, they'll do it. Like, they'll just complain every time. They haven't gotten bored of the bloodline. Like, even in recent memory, I love the Dom, Rhea, Liv, Damian and Rhea, branching off. Like, I love that whole story. But you're even hearing now, like, oh, this is getting old. Like, and I'm like, I'm personally enjoying it, but I'm hearing those rumblings. You don't hear those rumblings with the bloodline.
No, I almost don't know what we would do when it ends, because eventually they're going to like shelf it or they'll do something. It's going to come to a conclusion eventually. And I don't know what we're going to do when that day comes, because like this needs to go forever. Like, this is the coolest thing I've seen. And if they can continue to go for another few more years, how cool will that be that this is always now etched within the WWE? It's one of the coolest projects I've ever seen them like take on, to be honest. So